Tell me if this sounds familiar. You see someone blowing up online, their names everywhere. People quote them, share them, praise their work, and in your head, you hear a voice saying, they're not even that good. Why is everyone listening to them? Meanwhile, you're here doing real work that kind of takes depth, consistency, effort, and yet, somehow, you're still invisible. Here's a feeling most of us have but never quite understand. People don't recognize your work because you're good. They recognize it because you're familiar. And this is not just a gut feeling. This is psychology. As Dr. Daniel Kahneman explains in his book, Thinking Fast and Slow, familiarity is not easily distinguished from truth. We all want to believe that recognition is earned by being the best. But in reality, trust doesn't reward excellence. It rewards repetition. So if success and recognition don't go to the best, how do you make sure they go to you? So if people don't choose the best, they choose what they know, what's really going on in their heads. A psychologist named Robert Zajonc studied this phenomenon for decades. He called it the mere exposure effect. It's a fancy term for a simple idea. The more often you see something, the more comfortable you feel with it. This goes way back. Unfamiliar things used to be dangerous, so our brains evolved to prefer what we've seen before, what feels safe. And once you understand that, you can start building your work, your presence, your brand in a completely different way. Not by trying to impress, but by learning how to become a familiar presence in a world that's wired to trust what it knows, not what's best. Okay, but if trust grows through familiarity, what do you actually do with that? How do you take that insight and build something real around it? Something that doesn't depend on luck and algorithms. There is a process for that, a way to turn familiarity into motion. We call it the Familiarity Flywheel. It's a simple idea. The flywheel is your presence, your work, your message, your brand, everything you keep showing up with. And like any flywheel, it needs to spin to do its job. The more it spins, the more people recognize you, trust you, and want what you offer. But how do you take a flywheel that's standing still and get it spinning? And not just spinning, spinning on its own. You do it in 3 steps. You push, you nudge, you build momentum. You push by putting your presence out there. You nudge by showing up with consistency. You build momentum when the wheel starts spinning on its own. Push, nudge, momentum equals familiarity. And familiarity equals trust. And nobody hires you, follows you, or buys from you without trust. So let's start with the push. Let's get your flywheel out of inertia. Let's take the first step to stop being invisible. Just like a real flywheel needs that first push to overcome inertia, you need a message that gets things moving. Not a clever tagline, not branding. Just a simple truth you stand for. But how can you discover your truth? What do you want to stand for and shape your presence around? You can start by asking yourself these 2 questions. 1, what's something I believe so deeply I would keep saying even if no one liked, shared, or clapped? 2, what's the problem I can't help but notice when I look at the world around me? Now, take whatever comes to mind and imagine how you would explain that idea of truth to someone you care about. Once you imagine that explanation, try to reduce it to 1 simple sentence. Why 1 sentence? Because simplicity is the ultimate degree of sophistication. When things sound complex, they're not sophisticated enough. That simplicity is the birthplace of your truth. That's the kind of truth that gets your flywheel moving. But let me ask you this. What happens with the flywheel if we give it just 1 push? It slows down, it stops, doesn't it? You can find your truth, put into a simple sentence, and share it with the world. But if you only show up once, no one will remember it. The flywheel doesn't move because you had something to say. It moves because you kept saying it in ways that feel steady, and familiar. That consistency works like nudges that keeps the flywheel spinning after the first push, creating familiarity. And over time, that familiarity becomes recognition, not because you try to be everywhere, but because you kept showing up as the same person with the same truth, with the same consistency. All right, you found your truth, you kept that emotion, and you've shown up not just once, but with rhythm. That's not easy. It takes more than time. It takes trust in yourself, in the process. But here is the beauty of it. If you stay steady long enough, something shifts. At first, every push feels heavy. You're showing up, but no one's really paying attention. You're posting, sharing, speaking, reminding people who you are, what you do, why it matters, and most days it feels like nothing's landing. But you keep nudging, then slowly something shifts. You start seeing signs of recognition. One good reaction here, two great reactions there, some words of encouragement starting coming your way. Even critics start paying attention, which in its own way means you're being seen. That's momentum. You're not chasing attention anymore. You're being remembered, expected. That's when people don't just notice you, they look for you. It's the moment you're not being found by keywords in a search bar anymore. You become the keyword. You become the niche, the go-to source. And when that happens, you're not working to become visible anymore. You're building from a place of trust you already earned. It's not magic, it's not luck, it's just motion, finally working in your favor. Trust doesn't explode into existence. It builds momentum, one familiar moment at a time. So you don't have to do more to be more. Sometimes the most powerful thing is just to stay aligned with the truth you already found and let that speak for you, because the people we trust the most are not always doing the best thing out there. They're the ones we come to rely on because they kept showing up as who they really are.